Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Georgie, and I'm your friendly neighborhood anime and manga fan. I love all things anime and all things manga, and I'm here today to talk about Oshi no Ko episode 9. So, what did I think about this week's episode? I honestly thought this week's episode was great, and I think it's been continuing the trend of this show as a whole, which has just been consistently awesome, and we get to see great character writing as a whole. Specifically in this week's episode with both Kana as well as Mam, because we got to see a lot of insight of what's their inner workings, as well as what kind of struggles they've gone through in their life. Now, before I go any further with this week's episode, I just wanted to give you guys a quick reminder to make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you guys can be up to date with all my Oshi no Ko as well as all my anime and manga content that I'll be providing in this channel. It really helps out a lot, and I would really appreciate it if you guys could subscribe to my YouTube channel. So if you guys could, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get into this week's episode. So this week's episode starts off pretty much where we left off last week, which is Aqua and Miem, they go to the agency, and Aqua's pretty much recruiting her. And it's a little funny comment that even Aqua's mom, she's like, hey, you're becoming like the scout for our agency. So I thought that was pretty funny because he's gotten both Kana and now her as well to join. Like, this is pretty funny as a whole. So you see that Mam is like, yeah, I want to join and become in this idol group. And you see that Aqua is like, okay, let's do it. And the manager lady, she starts asking questions. She's like, okay, so about, are you contracted with anybody else? And she's like, no, I got contracts with, I got inner workings with other companies, but I'm not in a specifically exclusive contract with any other one. So she's like, okay, cool, so you're fine, you should be able to join us. Now, what's your age? And she's like, I don't want to talk about it. It's like, no, come on, I get it, you might have lied a couple of years. And Mam is like, no, that's just not, I don't want to talk about it. Like, no, well, you kind of have to. So then she's like, okay. So she whispers it to the manager. You see the manager like just completely her face shocked, like, what are you going on about? And we find out that Mam, she is not 15 or 16 or 17 or 18 or 19 or 20 or 21, 22. She's freaking 25. And this was a shocker. Like, this chick has been posing as a teenager for way too long, and you see a little bit of context of why she's been doing this. And the reason she's been doing this is because back when she was young, she always wanted to be an idol, and her mom was a single mother, and it was hard for her to make ends meet at the end of the day. So she just wanted to work as soon as possible, so she had to lie to her about her age. So back when she was 15 or so, she was technically lying about being probably 18 so she could work at other jobs and so forth. And she was getting all these jobs just to help her mom, and that goes to show how good of a person she is, how good good, selfless and kind-hearted she is. She's doing all this to support her family at the end of the day, and I thought that was awesome. And we see that eventually the mom gets sick, and she's like, okay, so then she starts really putting in more work. And by the time everything can kind of get settled down, she realizes like, yo, I'm 23, and all these gigs that I wanted to do as an idol, they only accept people that are 20 or so. So that's when she started lying about her age. And I thought that whole situation was pretty funny because, like I said, I'm sure there's a lot of influencers out there that do that in the daily. So seeing this was not too shocking. But what happens is eventually she's like, man, what if I get exposed? And you see Ruby march in. She's like, hey, it's okay, everything's gonna be working fine, like you should join the group, like this is gonna be great. And then she's like, are you sure? I don't know how to feel about this. And he's like, trust me. And then Kana even joins in, is like, okay, we can join. Yeah, you should join, dude. And pretty much, yeah, the squad gets assembled. They all agree, and they're all gonna be the new B-Komachi. And you see that Aqua's like, I'm gonna really depend on you to take care of them, Kana. And Kana just looks at him like, I don't even want to talk to you. And trust me, I'll talk about Kana later in this review, because Kana really stands out, and I think this she's been solidifying herself as the best girl, and that's not even a contest. But like I said, I'll get to it later in the review. Now, continuing from all that, we see that as they go along, they start rehearsing, and everything's going great for them. And you see that they're getting some traction. You see that they're starting to get a bunch of followers, because Mam, she's been making her audience go into this new YouTube channel that she created, which is specifically for the B-Komachi, like the group. And you see that they got over 10,000 subscribers. They're getting some traction, which is great for all of them, because they're getting exposure, and it might not be like super like a million views or something, but you gotta work yourself up. And I think that just Mam being able to translate her audience into this channel is helpful as it enough, because now you get to see automatically a surge of popularity. Whether it was small or not, you still get a surge, and I think that's great for them. Now after that, we see that Aqua catches up with the guy, the producer, and because he said, hey, you're gonna tell me the info about I. And the producer kept his word. He takes him out to sushi and they talk about it. And the producer's like, listen, I don't know the specific person that did this to I, the guy that she was talking to, but I do know that a director slash higher up that I know that it's this production company. I know that he really changed up I, like, thanks to this guy, I started acting more mature. She started looking after her image more. And I think if I get you with that guy, like, I think you could be able to solve everything. And Aqua was like, okay, cool. Like, why are you doing all this though? Like, what's your end plan? He's like, oh, I'm not doing this out of kindness. I just want to make sure that you like I said, you're an up and comer. Like, you're a young actor. And I want to make sure that me and you have a good relationship, because as years go by and let's say you become a big gig actor, I want to make sure that I can have, the first dibs. So I thought that was very fascinating, and it makes sense. The director's just looking after himself. He's not really doing this out of kindness, and I was never expecting that. But it's just good to see that he clarified it to Aqua straight up, and Aqua's like, okay, I accept that. But another thing the director even says is like, hey, those Komachi girls, they might be of interest in the future. So I think that's something that we might want to, keep an eye on, going forward in the story, because I think that the director is going to try to scout them. Because the more popular they get, I'm sure that he's going to try to, dabble his fingers and see like, hey, I want you to be in my projects. And I don't know how Aqua might feel about that. So like I said, I think this will be a developing thread that goes, along with the story going forward. Now, after that, we see that we catch up with the girls, and the girls are like, hey, there's going to be this festival, and, we should join this festival. Like, it's going to be the big idol group festival, and it's going to be at this arena. And, Kana's like, I don't think we're ready, bro. And you see Ruby and Ma'am, they kind of blow up. It's like, no, come on, dude, we're totally ready. And Kana's like, no, we're not. And she's like, no, let's do this. It's like, let's plan it. It's going to be in a month. And Kana's like, yeah, there's no way we're going to be ready in a month. And you see that, eventually, they convince her, but she's like hesitant, but she's like, all right, fine, because we'll never get another opportunity like this, so might as well take it. And if we fail, we fail, but at least we tried, so let's go for it. And then Kana goes and tells them like, hey, that's good to know, but now let's talk about the big issue in the room. It's like, what's the big issue in the room? It's like, who will be the leader? We need somebody to be the person that people attract, and they're like, hey, that's the lead. And eventually Ruby and Ma'am start fighting about it, and they're like, how about you, Kana? Weren't you used to be a singer? And Kana's like, yeah, I guess, like when I was a kid. And she's like, oh, well, yeah, you should join. You could sing, right? It's like, no, I'm an alright-ish singer, but no, I don't want to be the leader. And then she's like, okay, I guess, whatever. Now, funny side note was that earlier in the episode, like I said, Aqua was like, make sure you take care of them. And and Kana was super pissed. She's like, yeah, whatever. I don't know. I'm not doing this for you. Peace out. Like, I don't care about you. And we know that she obviously has feelings for him. And we know that she's, right now in the story, she's kind of beating herself over it. Like, she's very sad because she's like, man, the guy that I like is with this other chick. Like, am I not good enough? And then in this episode, I think it illustrated perfectly, Kana's insecurities, because she's very insecure about, whether she's a good singer, whether she is good enough looking, if she is talented enough. And that's very, human enough. Like, it's very human for us to feel like that. And I think a lot of people related to that scene. I know I myself did, because, I'm insecure about a particular amount of things. And just like anybody, we all have insecurities. And I think that this week's episode really captured, the mental state of somebody that, has a lot of insecurities, even though we know that she's perfectly fine, in the sense that the things that she nitpicks about herself, they're all, they should not be nitpicks. Like, they're good enough. But that's something that she has to earn, like, in her mental state. She has to understand, like, I'm good enough and I need to push forward, instead of, holding herself back and just being like, nah, I'm not good enough, because she's awesome. And like I said, Kana, best girl. This episode solidified that once again. So following that, we see that pretty much Ruby and Ma'am, they agree like, okay, let's have a karaoke challenge. And they're like, okay, let's do this. So they go to karaoke and they have a sing off, and they both score terribly. Like, both of them are mediocre-ish singers, and they're like, man, this sucks. It's like, what about Kana? Like, well, let's do you think she was really that bad of singer that she didn't even want to try? It's like, well, let's look at her other songs. Like, whoa, I didn't know that Kana actually had more songs other than in her younger days. So let's play a random one. And they play one of Kana's songs, and she is an amazing singer. She is phenomenal. She sings like an angel, and they both are shocked. They're like, whoa. And you see just cut to Kana, like, you know, in this booth by herself, and she's, you know, she scores a 97 out of 100. Like, she's a perfect singer. But I think that it might be some insecurities that, you know, she might think like, I'm not good enough to be a S tier singer. Maybe I'm a B tier singer at best. When in reality, no, she is a S tier singer, but she just herself is she's telling herself like, hey, I'm not good enough. But in reality, we all know she's good enough. So I definitely think if she were to become the center of the group, I think that's going to put more pressure on her. But I think it will be a good thing because, you know, it will prove to her, like, once she sees all these crowd and people cheering for her, like, hey, you know what, I am good enough. And I think that's what she needs right now in the story. But with all that being said, I thought this week's episode was phenomenal, and I can't wait to see where the story goes, because now we only get 2 episodes left, and it seems like we're going to end this season where it comes to the big concert. And I definitely think that, you know, this concert that they're going to, this is going to be their stepping stone in a successful career as the new rebranded B-Komachi. But with that being said, what did you guys think about this week's episode? Did you guys love it? Did you guys hate it? Did you guys think it was alright? Whatever you guys thought, let me know in the comment section down below. Also, thank you so much for sticking all the way to the end of the video. I really appreciate it. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more Oshi no Ko, as well as more anime and manga content in the near future. But yeah, with that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye bye.